I didn't mention it, but I got some backpacking gear.
Oh,
So
sweet. What'd you get?
I bought a new stove for myself back in like whenever REI has those specials, like whenever
Yep.
they send out their coupons.
Yep.
But I got a new cup. I
Okay.
got a new pack tarp. I got a new backpacking pillow, Thermarest inflatable.
Nice.
Between all that, I will have dropped about 6 pounds off my pack. So,
Wow. That's
yeah.
that's like an eternity. Holy smokes.
Yeah, when we need to go on a backpacking trip this summer, and when
We
we do
do.
that, that doesn't mean I get to carry more than you, Eric. It means
Sorry, I think you're about to find a bit more trail mix in your backpack. Welcome to the Greens and Blues 14er podcast. This episode, Zach comes dangerously close to hitting his call button. I come to a major crossroads, and we discuss a pair of 14ers in the southern Saguache, Shavano and Tabeguache. Well, Zach, how are you doing on this fine winter day?
oh, doing wonderfully, Eric. It's cold in Oklahoma, which means I get to do things outside. uh, for those of you that don't know, Oklahoma gets very toasty in the summertime. We
Oh,
have
yeah.
glorious springs that are interrupted by violent tornadoes. But winter is a quiet time where the allergies have died down. You get occasional days in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And so I've been actually working in the yard a lot,
Oh, there you
getting
go.
things ready. My yard peaks about April. That's when it looks its absolute best. So, yeah, I'm kind of getting ready for that. And I'm working with a friend of mine. We're going to rebuild some shelves in our pantry.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, we have like one of those. So our home was built in like 1979 in the year of our Lord. It's got like one of those, you open it up and you can pull out like this metal rolly thing, and it's
Oh,
got like
wow.
racks on it and stuff,
Uh-huh.
which sounds cool and all until we've lived here 10 years. We've never once pulled that thing out. Um, it's just a waste of space, and the wire racks mean like everything falls through it. Like if you
Oh,
have like
no.
a bottle of Zicam zinc medicine, it just like falls through the racks.
Oh,
So you have to
no.
lay it on its side. So yeah, I'm gonna work with a friend. We're gonna do some amateur carpentry and probably swear a lot this weekend. So how about you, Eric? How are you doing, man?
I'm doing well. You were talking before about working out, getting the cardio and getting the
Eric's doing
muscles
a
back
running
in.
motion for those
I'm
of you that can't see.
well, I'm actually going in the other direction. I haven't gone for a run in a while, so I feel like I'm putting on my winter weight right now and not really taking care of myself the way I need to. Although, going back a little ways, Santa was pretty good to me
Oh,
this past Christmas.
did he
Going
take
back
you
a
for a
bit.
run?
He should have, and he probably would have beaten me. But no, he gave me some winter hiking gear, and so
Ooh,
I'm looking forward to maybe tackling a few 13ers in more winter conditions this year. So
pray tell, what came down the chimney this
oh,
year for you, Eric?
so I got some snowshoes,
Ooh,
which I've only gone snowshoeing once in my life, so
ooh,
that'll be a fun experience. I got some Catula micro spikes
ooh,
to use. I got a Black Diamond ice axe and
ooh.
really looking forward to playing with that. And I'm the 13ers I start out on are probably not going to warrant maybe not any of those things,
Oh,
but
you'll probably need
certainly
the snowshoes. You'll
yeah,
need,
maybe the snowshoes, but the ice axe is certainly I'm not going to be going to town with that. But I'm going to carry it with me because it's gonna be fun to
yeah.
have and show off if I meet
It's always fun to
a
just strap it to your
pika down there.
pack and just carry it around
Exactly.
like you're a rock star.
Like I'm awesome. Yeah,
Like you got to
exactly.
do self-arrest at some point.
Right, right. So I'm gonna be hiking on the frozen tundra plains and gonna have to roll over onto my knees. But um, so no, that's kind of what's on my mind right now. I'm looking forward to that at some point, and hopefully it'd be great if you were able to find somehow in your teaching schedule a 7-day weekend that you could come out and bring your ice axe and We'll conquer some low 13ers or something.
I don't think my students will object to me giving them a quote unquote reading day.
Yeah. Oh, is that what it is? A reading day?
Yeah, in the syllabus, reading day is code for Zach is not working today.
Dr. Zach is gonna
Uh,
sit on his butt.
and you're gonna read, um, which means they're not gonna read. So yeah, I would love to do
Oh,
that. I might be headed out your way in March, so
oh,
maybe
there you go.
maybe March would be the time we can wake up at 5 a.m. and have some cocoa and tackle a 13er we neither of us have done. And then we could go on 14ers.com and get the little snowflake asterisk.
And get the snowflake, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So only one
Um,
of them, but still rock star stuff, my
Zach's done
friend.
almost close to 40 14ers, and then the one 13er in the snow. That's there it is.
130 13ers and one of them in the snow.
One with the snowflake. I
Yeah,
like it.
baby.
I like it. Well, Zach, what are we going to talk about today?
We're going to talk about a couple very well known, but hazy in our collective memory
Ah, yes.
14ers, Mount Shavano
Mm.
and Mount Tabeguache
Mm.
in the southern Swatch. They are the southernmost 14ers in the
Mm.
Swatch. We have not thought about or talked about these peaks in a very long time. We did not hike these together. So
That's
we've
right.
had very different experiences, and I kind of wanted to hear about your experience doing both combined because I did them separately. So
Oh, okay.
yeah. I've got some stories to tell today, my
You
friend.
you
Uh,
do.
so you hiked these how long ago, Eric?
I believe it was 2012, which would, at the time of this recording, would put this at, 12-ish years
Yeah.
ago.
So what drew you to hike these peaks?
So,
They're on a list.
well, so that was early in my 14er journey. So, we talked in our last episode about my first 14er, which was longs. That was a very harrowing experience. The summer after that, I summited Princeton and Bierstadt, much more doable, much more tame on the 14er list. And so I guess in 2012, which is I think is when I hiked it with my buddy Travis, he and I hiked these two together. I guess I was kind of at a crossroads, as so to speak,
Mm,
where I wasn't sure, okay, these 14ers, am I going to get freaked out by these things? Do I really want to put myself in a spot where longs could happen again? Or are there more 14ers out there like Princeton, Bierstadt that are on the doable side for me? And so I was kind of at a situation where do I really want to get into this 14er thing or was it fun to do a few of them and I'm going to focus on other stuff. So Shavano and Tabeguache came at a time where I was trying to figure out, how into this am I? And when we get to my song, it'll kind of help describe where my head was at because this is a combo. I hadn't done a combo at this
yeah.
point, and we look at from the standard route to do them together, they're 11 to 12 miles round trip and well over 5,000 feet of gain. Those are you're getting into longs numbers again. And so I was
Yeah.
thinking, okay, am I going to be able to do this? And so all of that was kind of going in my head, and it wasn't like freaking me out or anything, but I was in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, this is maybe a little more on the challenging side, and this might kind of test how committed I am to this 14er thing. I didn't realize you hiked these two separately because there was at one point, I believe, the Jennings Creek trailhead was closed or it was encouraged not to hike Tabewash via that route. So I'm curious to hear your stories, especially on your experiences with Tabewash.
Yeah, I hike them separately, and so we'll have different routes we can talk about. And so I
Hmm.
did do the Jennings Creek route. If you look on 14ers.com, what I did is called the West Slopes route or the
Okay.
West Ridge, which goes up Jennings Creek but does not do the Jennings Ridge. There's a ridge, a southwest ridge that you gain and then
Hmm.
go along. This stays low in Jennings Creek
Okay.
where I went. Yeah, I did them obviously on separate occasions. I did Chavano very early in the season. It was in early June, actually. I wanted to glissade down the
You
Angel in
wanted the angel,
Chavano.
yeah.
I didn't want to go up it. I wanted to go
You
down
want to
it.
go down it, of course.
Um, but it actually was one of those years, 2014, 15, 16, somewhere around there, where Colorado just wasn't getting a lot of snow.
Yep.
And so it was kind of already in early June, kind of dirty and rocky. And so I didn't get to do that. But there was enough snow on the ridge over to Tabeguache that I did not feel comfortable doing that traverse. So ended up coming back a year later and doing Tabeguache. But I've always loved looking at these peaks. I oftentimes come up from either New Mexico or Oklahoma, and the first big 14ers you see when you come up from the south into Poncha Springs are Shavano and Tabeguache,
Yeah.
especially Shavano. And they have this kind of grand allure there. They kind of loom above the Arkansas Valley there, and I think that's really cool. We should probably address the names of these guys. So Shavano is named after a Ute mountain chief, so the Ute Native American tribe, who signed a peace treaty with the Americans, obviously in the 1800s. And originally the name was Frenchicized, Chavaneaux.
More
Uh,
vowels than consonants kind of
yeah,
thing.
Chavaneux.
Yeah.
So I would say the Americanization of Chavano is probably as close as we're gonna get. Don't do like my Okie friends would do, Shavano and Shavano. That also sounds like Janice from
Savannah.
Friends. Shavano. Yeah, Shavano would be that would be the Okie way of doing it. Um, and then there's Tabeguache. And actually, I learned in researching this, if you go to the Wikipedia page for Tabeguache Peak, it's got the little pronunciation thing
Yeah,
there.
yeah. Icon
And
there.
yeah, it's a little icon. You could click on it and hear some guy go, Tabeguache. Um, so, and the Tabeguache are a band of Ute Indians. So these are pretty cool peaks in terms of naming provenance. That's pretty neat. They're relatively easy to do. So, a good early season hike, as I did them both for. So,
Yeah.
Eric, you did Chavano and Tabeguache. From what route? And tell me a little bit about how you access the peaks and how you got there.
Yeah. So Shavano and Tabeguache again, being a combo, I think Travis and I looked at them and said, "Oh, let's try and get a two for one." So we took the standard route at least to hike Shavano and, if you are so inclined, both of them. There may be a little bit of a question here. So the .com calls the trailhead the Shavano Tabeguache Trailhead. Jerry Roach calls it the Blank Gulch Trailhead, which I think is what it is, or maybe formerly was known as. I think there was a shack that was there
a,
at one
a,
point.
a lean-to, a
Oh yeah,
cabin.
yeah, a cabin of
But
some
it's
sort.
since it was called the Blank Cabin, I think.
Okay.
And so, but it's since gone. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so yeah, Roach calls it Blank Gulch, but I think the 14ers.com calls it the East Slopes route,
Mm-hmm.
and you maneuver towards that trailhead.
Yep, exactly. So there's a small parking lot there, and the way to go up is, I think it's pretty clear. So, yeah, I think that's considered the standard route for trying to tackle Chavano and adding on Tabeguache if you'd like. There's also the Angel of Chavano trailhead, which I think as the crow flies is only less than a mile away, but it's connected via the Colorado Trail, so you can't drive your car between the two if you were so inclined to hike the Angel of Chavano trailhead. So you'd have to kind of drive around, and it's like a 45-minute drive, but
Yeah, you have to
um,
drive all the way out, get on US 50,
get
drive
back on
west
50
for
exactly.
toward Monarch Pass, and then go
Mm-hmm.
on a county road for about
Mm-hmm.
4 miles. Yeah, it's
Exactly.
a little more of an ordeal. Subi scale, what would you say the road is going in?
It's it's pretty straightforward. I think that it's passenger car drivable, so it's like a one. The problem I had, well, it was a plus and a minus, was that I took my Jeep Wrangler at the time. It was long ago enough that I still had my Wrangler, but once Travis and I finished our hike, I got back and my car wouldn't start. So my car was notorious, or I should say, I was notorious for leaving the lights on. We're getting up early, driving to the
Yeah.
trailhead, and I still had the lights on, forgot to turn them off, and so I burned my battery out. So yeah, I had to wait for someone to come up and give me a jump, which thankfully someone did. But so as far as car problems, I had problems, but your car probably won't have problems getting to that trailhead. Probably no one's car will. So it's pretty straightforward.
Did you guys camp out there or did you drive all the way in from Denver?
No, we drove in from Denver kind of
Woo!
early in my 14er career. That was pretty standard procedure for me was to just wake up at 2 in the morning and just drive to the Sawatch or wherever from my house in the Denver area. And so, yeah, there are camping options at the Blank Gulch trailhead. There's, some random spots you could plop your tent down at, but that wasn't how we did it. So
Interesting.
you described how you tackled Tabeguache. How did you tackle Shavano? From which trailhead did you go?
Same as you.
Okay.
I went from the standard East Slopes slash Blank Gulch route and had a relatively similar experience to you. I actually did camp out. There's a bunch of improvised informal campsites along that road that you can stop at. They've done a fair amount of clearing of deadfall and stuff, and so there's some open spots that you can camp on. So if you go to the .com or you go to Jerry Roach and it talks about along that county road that you're going to be driving along, you can expect to kind of be able to stop at a number of places there, except perhaps the busiest of holiday weekends. There's
Mm,
enough to probably absorb most weekends, but not exactly like a holiday rush, like 4th of July or Labor Day. You might run into some issues there. So I did it from that route. In terms of Tabeguache, I did it from so the West Slopes route, if you go to the .com, is a little bit harder to get to. You have to go west on Monarch Pass or towards Monarch Pass and going to turn onto County Road 240 and you're going to pass the Angel of Shavano trailhead. And then you're going to drive another 3.5 to 4 miles on that road. And that road is pretty rough.
mm,
I wouldn't say it's four-wheel drive. So 14ers.com says it's four-wheel drive. It's certainly high clearance. It'll beat your car up a little bit. It is not
mm.
passenger car safe. So if you're a person that is hiking the 14ers in a passenger car and you want to do both these, you're going to have to commit to probably doing Shavano and Tabeguache as a combo like Eric's about to describe.
A long day.
It,
Okay.
yeah, longer day. If you want to do them separately and you don't want to go up over the ridge, you're going to need a vehicle that can handle that.
Mm.
So that road is a little rough. There's a slope that you go up at one point that it'll eat your car up a little bit. My Forester was probably telling me to stop, and I didn't listen because I knew what was past it. I was like, if I get past this, I'm good. So
Yeah.
there's not a lot of camping along that road. There's a few spots here and there. I ended up doing the classic Zach thing where I just found a level enough spot in my Subaru and I slept in the back of the Subaru.
Yep.
There's a few spots here and there, but they're a little harder to come by. If you go past the trailhead, which is not very well marked, if you go past that for Tabeguache, there's a few campsites along there that you can grab too. But if you go much past there, you're going to need a much better vehicle. You probably will need at minimum all-wheel drive and or if not four-wheel drive. So at least in a high gear.
Okay.
So that's the way that I took. If people are listening to this and they've hiked a lot of 14ers these days tend to have very defined trails.
Mm-hmm.
Shavano has a very defined trail.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you're going to talk about a little bit more about that in a moment, Eric, but Tabeguache from the West Ridge route, the trail is defined, but you'll do a little bit more route finding, especially when you kind of work your way up to the saddle in between Carbonate and Tabeguache. And that speaks to the fact that it's not as well used, it's not as frequented. And that was the allure for me
Mm.
was that I wanted to do a non-standard route and I wanted to have the peak to myself and I almost got that. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
I was wondering if there was something to the fact that it was kind of discouraged from being used for so long, if that kind of prevented the trail from being as well defined as many other 14er trails are these days.
Well, I think a couple things worked to that advantage or disadvantage, however you want to take it. The old standard route up Tabeguache was to go up Jennings Creek just a little ways and then to angle onto a ridge, gain this ridge and ascend the ridge all the way towards Tabeguache.
Hmm.
The West Ridge route stays in Jennings Creek for a very long time. And as a result, the trail really never has been frequented all that much.
Okay.
And now that the standard route to do both is from Shavano, I don't think many people find their way up Tabeguache, up that West Ridge
On the
route,
west side.
which is unfortunate. It's a very logical route. It's no harder than the Shavano way. And if you're into 13ers, you can bag a couple 13ers on your way. So you could bag Carbonate and Cyclone peaks,
Mm,
which are just to the west of it. So it has some allure in and of its own right. And if you like solitude, that's probably the way to get it.
okay.
So, Eric, tell me about your experience hiking Chavano and Tabeguache with Travis.
Yeah, like we alluded to earlier, got up really early, made our way down, broke one of the cardinal Zach Simpson rules of start your hike in the daylight, don't do it in the dark. Well, we did it in the dark. So there's very little in the very beginning that I remember. We were just slogging up, trudging up. One thing I do remember is eventually we got pretty close to tree line, but the sun was coming up at that point. We were still just in the forest, and I remember the forest being really pretty. It was
Mm-hmm.
really nice. The trail felt good, and we may get into this a little bit later on. The CFI is doing a lot of work to kind of redo the trail on Chavano because it's actually not very environmentally sustainable.
It's
Um,
eroding rather quickly.
it erodes very easily too.
Yeah.
Not well built, but at the time it was a pretty hike. Just going through the forest, and you could kind of see through the trees off to the east. Kind of see down into the valley a little bit, and then eventually you break out of tree line and kind of skirt around the Angel, I think, to the north, and
Mm-hmm.
then you kind of turn back up. I think we may have alluded to this a little bit earlier, Zach. This was long enough ago for me that a lot of my memories of Chavano and Tabeguache are pretty hazy. I don't remember I don't remember a lot of detail about the hike, and honestly, I can't find a picture of our hike to save my life. I don't remember very much about the initial part of the hike, at least, but I know that we got there, and at that point, for us, it was decision time. Do we commit to adding on Tabeguache to our hike or not? But the initial part of the hike, it was cool. Actually, on 14ers.com, before you and I hiked Uncompahgre, I had Chavano listed as my favorite 14er at that point because
Really?
maybe that speaks to I wasn't going to put longs on there, and I think a lot of the other ones weren't super memorable. But I remember it being a pleasant hike,
Mm-hmm.
pleasant class two hike up to the summit. So I enjoyed it, and we got to the summit, and it was nice.
I had a very similar experience. I hiked it with Lacey, my dog,
Yeah.
and I found that the stroll up to the saddle was very unaggressive. For, a lot of Sawatch peaks, you're going to have to go on some nasty slope at some point that's kind of screed out.
Yeah.
But this one was not bad at all in that regard. I thought it was a great stroll up to the top. At no point was the grunt just horrible.
Hmm.
And it was probably made better by the fact that I ran into a couple really interesting people on my way up, one of whom is a woman named Lori Normando. And Lori had, at that point, hiked 6 out of the 7 summits.
Oh,
So
wow.
everything but Everest,
Oh,
essentially,
boy.
Denali and Kilimanjaro and
Hmm.
Elbrus. And she made for fascinating company,
I'll bet.
talking about all her hikes and climbing and so forth. So it went rather quickly for me. At no point was I really straining a lot. It
Hmm.
felt like a good trail. I'm with you too. The hike through the forest was quite nice. I quite enjoyed it. There was a little bit of snow. Yeah, once I got to the top of Chavano, for me, I had every intention of comboing it that day. And then I looked over at the ridge and I was looking again at my pictures and thinking, well, was I wuss? And I look at that ridge, it was very snowy. From the perspective of Chavano, it did not look safe.
Mm.
Now, I saw other people heading off and doing it, but it was early enough in the season, and I felt just happy to be there that I
Hmm.
was like, I'll hike Tubwatch another day. So when you get to the top of Chavano, what does the traverse over to Tubwatch look like for you?
I think from when it comes to most combo mountain routes where you're at a summit peak and you're looking towards the next summit in the combo, looking down the summit you're currently on generally looks a little intimidating at first because just perspective is all it is. So there might have been a split second where Travis and I were like, is this really class two? Is this really doable? But again, my memory is a bit fuzzy at this point. I remember just looking over at Tabeguache and saying, that just looks like a rock pile. Like that doesn't look like it's that challenging. Getting down Shavano from that perspective looks more challenging than getting up Tabeguache. So
Yeah.
we just decided, you know what, let's just do it. And so we got down to the saddle. I don't think it took super long. And then, yeah, it's just a class two rock hop. Actually, I think there's a trail going up all the way to the top of Tabeguache from it would be its southeast face from Shavano. There was nothing crazy about it. I agree with your point about a lot of the Sawatch gets kind of screed and talused out at some points along the
Hmm.
way. I don't remember that even on Tabeguache. I think there was a trail most of the way and it made sense. So we just committed to it and eventually found ourselves on top of Tabeguache and said, "Hey, we got two and one."
No, you got three because you,
Here we
the
go. Here
sunshine
we
and red
go.
cloud
Yeah.
name drop there. Um, yeah, so this is probably the difference in timing. When did you hike Shavano and Tabeguache?
I think we did them in mid to late July is my guess. So yeah, any snow that you may have encountered would have probably been gone by the time we did it.
Yeah, and it could have been perfectly doable in the snow if I had probably been more mentally or even practically prepared for it. I did not have the aforementioned micro spikes or anything else or ice axe on me at that point. I'm glad that that was a sensible traverse. Any feels when you got to the top of either of those? Were you relieved that your hiking journey could continue or
Yeah, I think so. Again, my fuzzy memory doesn't allow me to remember details that fondly, but I'm pretty sure by the time we got to the top of Tabeguache, I was thinking, okay, this actually worked. Now there was still the portion of, oh, well, we got to get down this, and how are we going to do that?
I got to go home?
We got to get home somehow. And honestly, I don't think we fully resummited Chavano. I think we skirted around the east face of it.
Hmm.
I'll have to ask Travis again. I don't think we fully resummited Chavano. So if I look at my 14ers checklist, I only have Chavano on there once. I don't have it twice. So maybe there may be some controversy there.
You got to
But
touch
yeah,
the top, man.
yeah. But yeah, getting the first combo in my 14er career, it felt good. It was a good experience. So yeah. So I have one question for you, Zach, around Chavano and maybe before we transition to your Tabawash experience.
Hmm.
Because you did not get to glissade down the Angel, do you have intentions at all in the future of revisiting Chavano? Maybe not even to resummit it, but to be able to get your ice axe ready and to
Ooh.
go down the Angel in a snow blazed glory.
I do have a list of peaks. I'm not putting pressure on my kid, but if my daughter wants to start doing these 14ers, that would be one that I would love to do the combo, and I would love to glissade down that,
Mm.
and that would be a ton of fun. I do have, in my spreadsheet that I won't show anyone, I do have a list of like extra credits on there. So I've
Oh
got
yeah.
I've got a list of backpacking trips that I want to do, and I've got obviously peak lists in each range that I want to do. But I've got some funsy ones in there, and I want to, yeah, glissading down Mount Etna is actually on my list,
Ah.
and that's in the Southern Sawatch, and that's got a
Hmm.
pretty famous couloir. You can kind of do the bottom half of that as a glissade. I really would like to do that, but maybe I got to add that one. Or maybe now I got to go buy an ice axe for my daughter because apparently I'm going to drag her up that mountain and we're going to glissade it. So, yeah, that would be a lot of fun. My feeling of getting to the top of Chavano was like I just had an easy day. And, Jerry Roach does not have a lot of Roachisms for
No,
Chavano and
he's
Tablewatch. It's
a little quieter. Yeah.
surprisingly bereft of those. I would actually say that one of the things that I really liked about Chavano was that it was a very uncomplicated peak for me.
Hmm.
It was an easy first beginning of summer hike for me, and I really liked that. And sometimes you got to have those days too.
Yeah, for sure. Well, do you want to jump into your experience with the other guy, the one that starts with a T?
Tabawash.
Tabawash?
So I went back a year later, having been, I guess,
Burned?
not burned,
Is that
cooled,
too is that too
uh,
strong?
having fallen short. And I wanted to do Tabawash from this non-standard route. I really enjoyed that hike. I had, for the most part, the entire hike to myself, which, as everybody knows, on a 14er is a rare thing these
Mm.
days. I had solitude, even had to do a little bit of route finding going up. It's not hard. And actually, the 14ers.com has really good picture descriptions were you to download those or print them out and take them with you. It'll lead you up. So I enjoyed that part of it. It was kind of early summer as well. Didn't really learn my lesson on Chavano the previous year. And the trees kind of had that light green budding color. I've got a lot of pictures of light green aspen buds,
Oh, wow.
and they're kind of that vibrant, almost
Hmm.
pastel green, and it was
Yeah.
really pretty. I really enjoyed the hike, and I again found it very smooth. Gaining the saddle wasn't all that bad. Going up the West Ridge is highly intelligible. It's very logical. There's a ridge and you walk it, and it's not much more complicated than that. The grunt wasn't too bad at all
Mm.
for a 14er, especially early season. My one fun story from this is that as I summit, I hear people chatting coming up. So no one was coming over from Chavano, but I hear people coming up my route. And I was like, that's interesting. And it was a bluebird day, not a cloud in the sky. I was enjoying, as I do, a rather large snack at the top. It was a father and son. And I have particular affection for fathers and sons that hike together. And I talked to them for a minute when they got to the top, and then I headed down. About 10 minutes after I start heading down, I can hear them. And because it's such a clear day, I can hear them yelling at each other. And
Oh, wow.
the son was not enjoying his day. As my mom would say, he was not a happy camper. Um, he maybe had been drug up there by his dad, or maybe got up there and then realized that he had to go down this thing, and he would not move.
Oh, wow.
He refused to go forward. And so I eventually made my way down to the saddle between Carbonate and Tabwatch and decided to have another snack and just enjoy the beautiful day. And I continued to listen to them argue with one another and having a really arduous and tough time getting down the ridge.
Oh, wow.
So tough that at one point I really considered pulling out my personal locator beacon. I didn't think the kid was going to get off the mountain.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm sure the dad probably thought the same.
Huh?
And so I sat there for a long time thinking, I may need to help in this situation. I may need to assist getting them down. Eventually, they worked their way a little bit down to where they were kind of in a place where the going was a little easier. Because anytime you descend on talus, it's a pain in the butt. And I thought I could go forward. And so I ended up descending. I took lots of pictures of leaves, as I later discovered, going through my picture trove here. And I got back down to my car and I hung out at my car for a bit, and I saw them return to their car. And I saw the dad and just kind of waved to him, and they went on their merry way. But I don't know if he realized how close it was to, it sounded dire from my perspective.
Wow.
I think the kid was having a hard time, and I think the dad was having a hard time responding to the kid having a hard time. Drama on Tablewatch, and I've always wondered what happened to those two. I bet that kid's in his 20s now, but
Wow, that's crazy. Okay, so I have questions. So I know ascending and descending Tabawash from the West Ridge, just reading the route description, there can be a temptation when descending to do so, I think, too early and descend into McCoy Gulch, which
which
I've
is a
I've
no-no.
I've
That
read multiple
naughty
reports
sauce.
saying
Don't do it.
do not do that. And so was that part of the issue? Or were they physically struggling with the route that they took or try to do McCoy Gulch, or was it just the kid just did not want to go down?
I think that no, the dad knew what he was doing in that respect. They did not try to go McCoy Gulch, and I'm glad you mentioned that. If you look at both Jerry Roach, so he discusses this as like an alternate route in. So I have the very old, antiquated Jerry Roach, um, and he calls this the variation
Mm,
of the West Ridge Class 2 route. He notes it's good for just the descent. It actually worked fine for an ascent. But they both note, the .com and Jerry Roach both note, to not go down McCoy Gulch. It does not look that tempting. You know, there are other places like we talked about Sunshine and Red Cloud. There's a temptation coming down off Sunshine
sunshine it would be. Yep.
to dip down into that. That looks actually kind of tempting.
Hmm.
I don't recall the McCoy Gulch route being like, oh man, that ascent was so brutal, I got to find a shortcut. It didn't tempt me at all, and they weren't tempted either. No, this was
Okay.
just them having trouble with a long day, I think, and getting down the scree. And I'm glad they didn't do that. But yes, for those of you that are using this as part of your beta process, do not do that McCoy Gulch route. It cliffs out at various points, and I believe there were a lot of calls to search and rescue back in the day to try to help people off that had cliffed themselves out that way.
Mm.
So no, this was just some drama in the hills, and it's the closest I've ever come to pulling my personal locator beacon because I really thought they were in trouble. And
Wow.
it was a bluebird day, but clouds were kind of slowly rolling in. And I thought,
Hmm.
dang, these two are going to get themselves in trouble here. But it ended well, at least.
Okay. That's wow. And I guess that's the last story I would have imagined leading to a need to hit your call button. Like that's normally it is a McCoy Gulch situation
Yeah,
where
right.
you're like, I cannot physically get down here. I need someone to help me. But no, it was more just, like you said, a long day or a hiker that's maybe less than willing to pull their weight in getting themselves down the mountain. That's fascinating. And good on you
911
for
emergency response. Yeah, I've there's some people up here in the mountains that are having a bit of a hard time.
good on you for waiting on them and just making sure they were safe too.
Yeah, that's probably the take home here is at least if you see a situation like that where someone's really struggling and you have the physical ability and the weather window, just wait up.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. It happened that I had plenty of snacks and I think he even read a book for a minute.
Oh, wow.
So if you have the time and it's a beautiful day, why not? But yeah, there's a maybe a bit of a code there to do that. Who knows when it may be me that needs that help one day too.
Mm,
So
yeah.
yeah. Any other thoughts on your Shavano Tabeguache excursion? This was not the Sufferfest of Long's Peak.
This is maybe more on the redemption side of things rather than
Yeah.
the suffer side of things. It was a good experience. Even you've got me kind of tempted to look at the west ridge of Tabewash now. From Savino, it's just a rock pile, but it sounds like the alternate route is a fun one. And I don't know if you got Carbonate and Cyclone nearby too, and
Make a day
I
out of it, brother.
make a fun day out of it. That sounds good. As long as I don't have to hit my call button, that sounds like a tempting way to go.
And Carbonate and Cyclone, by the way, I don't know what it's like from that side, so I'm not going to pump the tires on it from that side. But from the next valley to the west, that is the worst pile of scree I've ever been up in my, like, it's like
Oh,
literally one step forward, one step back going up.
oh my
I felt
gosh.
like I was on a stair mill.
Oh
Um,
man.
that might be a fun episode all on its own. That was a day for the ages. There's so much deadfall on that trail, and just like going through, it's probably like cobble. It's probably 2 feet thick, just sitting at angle of repose
Oh my
on the
gosh.
saddle in between Cyclone and Carbonate. And it's fun to scree surf down, but to go up that was like the most work I've ever done to go up a mountain.
Oh, that
Um,
sounds like torture
it was
going up.
brutal. And of course, I had my dog on that one too. And
Oh,
Lacey, 34-pound Sheltie, just scampered up that. And she kept
jeez.
looking at me. And she'd do that dog thing where, she tilt her head like,
Yeah.
what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Why are you breathing?
Why are you struggling with this?
What's your problem? Well, Eric, I think it's come to that time to talk about our two favorite things. I don't know if you ate on this journey at all. Any restaurants nearby that you could recommend?
Not really. I think what we did is I think we may have stopped in like Fairplay on the way home and ate at like a Pizza Hut. So I
Oh,
really have
yeah.
no, and that Pizza Hut doesn't exist anymore. Rest in peace. But I
God,
don't
the butter
know.
crust on those things, though. Whew.
It was nice after a long hiking day. So yeah, unfortunately, Zach, I have no good food recommendations. I'm gonna guess though that you've got some aces up your sleeve when it comes to food after these two.
I cannot remember it at the moment. Well,
Mm.
I can't remember the name of it at the moment. But before I did Shavano, I was actually coming from the west and I went through
Okay.
Gunnison.
Mm.
And there was a Nepalese place along US 50 there. I don't know if it's still there. I had chicken biryani rice
Oh,
that I have no doubt that my powering up Shavano the next day was in no small way related to the fuel of like that mound of gorgeous food that I ate the night before. I was just running on pure awesome that
just
day. So
joy. Chicken
yeah.
biryani is glorious.
Oh, and it had the little raisins and cashews. Just inject that into my veins. So if you happen to find a Nepalese place in Gunnison, knock it out, folks.
Just go. Yeah.
Yeah, just do it. There's a bunch of them in Crested Butte too that are really good.
Oh,
But
interesting.
so in terms of ratings, Eric, what would you rate this on the difficulty scale, the grunt scale, and then maybe the combined difficulty scale?
Yeah. Honestly, Zach, I don't think I would rate these super high on any of those scales. I mean, again, for those inclined to try and tackle these both in the same day, you're going to be on the mountain for a while, but again, it's not complicated. It's not super technical. You're just going to be strolling upwards for a long time. And then if you decide to add on Tabeguache, you'll stroll downwards again and back up, and then maybe you'll summit Chavano twice, depending on how you want to get back. But I don't know. I would not rate these super high. Maybe a four on the grunt scale, and even lower on the difficulty scale. There's good trail the whole way. Not very high. I don't know. Where would you rate these?
I mean, in terms of difficulty, Chavano's a class 1 plus to
Mm.
me. With the renewed efforts of the 14ers initiative to improve trails along there, it will probably become an even better trail with steps and whatnot cut
Yep.
into it. No route finding. The hard part is just going up it. Yeah, if we're going on a 0 to 10 scale of effort to get up Chavano, it's a 3
Mm.
or a 4. It's one of the easier 14ers outside of the easiest. Like if there's like Dante's Inferno level rings, like the lower rung is Quandary and
Yeah.
Sherman and those ones. This is just in the next ring of easy ones. If you want to add some spice to it, Angel of Chavano would make it fun.
Mm.
You could do a snow climb there or a snow descent there, as the case may be. The West Ridge of Tabeguache, I would say that's class 2, if only because you got to do a little bit of route finding there, and it's a little bit more scree at the top. In terms of effort, it's 8 miles, about 4,300 elevation gain and loss, give or take a few hundred feet. So, maybe that's a 4 on the
Hmm.
effort scale. I think if you combo these, and you could combo it from the West Ridge too, there's nothing to say you couldn't do that.
Yeah. Yep.
That might make for a really fun kind of unorthodox way of comboing these if
That's
you've
a great thought.
got the car to do it. And actually your starting point's a little higher if you do it that way. So, yeah, I'd say it's a 4. The allure of these peaks is the ease of them and the beautiful views that you get. You're looking out on the Arkansas River Valley and you're looking north and west up into just a sea of Sawatch peaks.
Lots of
The
peaks there. Yep.
views are sensational up there.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's the allure of it.
Yep.
Our favorite section of this, Eric, if your hike was a song, or rather your experience of the hike was a song, what song would it be?
Yeah, I think the experience would definitely fit for me the song I'm gonna pick. So it's a very obscure song. I love the song. It's by actually a pair of indie bands. One of them is from San Diego. They're called Waves, and another band called Cloud Nothings from Cleveland. So somehow they put an EP together, the two bands together, and the EP is called No Life for Me. And the title track is actually very simple. The pre-chorus, there's hardly any words in this whole song, really. The verses are pretty sparse, and then the pre-chorus just is the lead singer claiming, I'm worried, I'm not worried, as if he can't make up his mind whether he's going to be worried about what is ahead of him or not. And I think that did describe me walking into Shavano and Tabeguache. Again, the difficulty of Longs a couple years earlier, and then the relative ease of Princeton and Bierstadt the previous summer had me thinking, okay, is this combo, is this going to be doable? Am I up for this? And so that was kind of in the back of my head most of the time is yeah, I'm worried, but I'm not worried. Like this is a nice hike. Maybe, maybe this 14er thing can be for me long term. Eventually the chorus has kind of this burst of energy and the chorus simply says, my energy is my long to be here. It was basically saying, yeah, I'm at the top of Chavano. We're at the top of Tabeguache. This has been a good experience. And yeah, I could see myself enjoying the Colorado mountains for years to come. And so, really obscure song to summarize it, but I think it fits the experience really well.
You got a little Rocky Mountain High there, brother. That's
Yeah, it worked out well.
little Joe Walsh.
Yeah, there you go. So, where are you going with your song? Do you have two songs then, since these were two separate experiences?
You know, so we talked about, and this is not to denigrate either of these peaks, but I did not really remember them very well. When
Great.
when I proposed this, it was as a mechanism to remember some things about
Mm,
these peaks that we had done so long ago. And both of these kind of got hazy for me, and I had to go back through my pictures. I take a lot of pictures, usually about 25 to 30 pictures for every mountain I hike.
mm,
And I had to kind of walk through the pictures and the route descriptions and kind of go back through my beta process to really think about what these involved. And even then, no big memories other than the kid and his dad and Laurie Normando stood out on either of these peaks. And so the song that I picked was actually Pink Floyd's Time.
mm.
And a lot of this is a, very British feeling bad about how you're getting older and you haven't done anything, but there is a line. And then one day you find 10 years have got behind you. No one told you when to run. You missed the starting gun. I look back and these were 10 years ago and I was like, oh my gosh. And I kind of forgot that I was present for those peaks in the way that I was. And yeah, time has gone by. And sometimes peaks really stand out, like Sunshine and Red Cloud or Uncompahgre or Tejares Peak for me in the Sangres. But these ones don't stand out. They're just kind of there in my memory.
Yep.
And that's not a commentary on these mountains. I know they can be really special for other people, but yeah, sometimes they just mark the time, I guess. But
Yeah.
I definitely felt that with these. It also allowed me to re-listen to Dark Side of the Moon last night at 11:30, so there's always that.
Were you watching The Wizard of Oz while you did that?
No, my
I've never
wife and
done
I
that.
did that one time.
Oh, did you? You did. Okay.
It so works. It especially works for like the Wicked Witch part and a couple other parts where it's like, okay, they did that intentionally. There's other parts where it doesn't fit.
Okay.
Yeah, I hardly recommend. You can go on the internet and it'll tell you like where to start Dark Side of the Moon in Wizard of Oz. It kind of works.
Okay.
So, yeah, you should
Interesting.
do that. Yeah. Any other thoughts, Eric, on Chavaneux and Tabawash?
No, I think we combed through both of our memory banks. I agree. not to talk bad about these peaks, but the memory is a bit fuzzy, and maybe that just speaks to maybe the gentler nature
Yeah,
that they hold in 14erdom. Not a bad thing at all. It's still, as we've mentioned in previous episodes, it's still a day in the mountains and
absolutely.
still requires work. You're not going to take an elevator up there, but it's a fun day, and hey, you can knock out two peaks in one if you're so inclined. And that's a great thought. I never would have put it together that you could combo both of them from the west side of Tabeguache, but that would make perfect sense and maybe even make it a little more fun than trying to tackle both from Chavano. So that's
Jer
interesting.
Jerry Roach, if you've got some buddies, Roach has a really cool variation where you do Antero, Shavano, Tabeguache as a trio,
Oh,
and I think you
wow.
bag a 13er en route, but you have to do a car shuttle. You park one car at Browns Creek and another
Mhm.
off the east slopes of Chavano. If you could do that, now we're talking party time.
That would be cool.
That is some Rick James stuff right there. That'd be a lot of fun. What's that song you did with Eddie
Gonna be
Murphy?
super
Party all the
freaky. Oh,
time.
party all the time. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
there you go.
that would be a party all the time.
That holy cow. So what I'm curious now, you bring that up, are you talking like a class two ridge walk, or does that get pretty spicy between
I mean,
Tabeguache and Antero?
so Jerry Roach in his 14ers guide from hikes to climbs, whatever year this is, my 1996 edition, this is under Tabeguache, calls this the Northeast Slopes 2 Class 2 route from Browns Creek Trailhead at 17 miles. So it's from Browns Creek, and it doesn't say you can throw in Antero, but I don't know why you couldn't on this as well. But it's 17 miles
Hmm.
with 5,300 feet of elevation gain and loss. So pretty gnarly. He calls this almost a backpacking excursion. So,
Yeah, I see
man, that
that.
might be a way to do it there. Could be a lot of fun. There's all kinds of different ways to do these, and maybe the unorthodox ways would be fun ways to mix it up a little bit on these peaks.
I love it. That's really cool. I hadn't noticed that in Roaches. I've got the third edition. In the Northeast Slopes of Tabeguache, he does add in Antero into that description, but everything else matches from what you shared, Zach. So that's a neat idea. That'd be
Yeah,
interesting.
maybe another way to spice this up as we get
Yeah.
older, Eric,
There you go.
or, or aging bodies.
Yeah.
So, Eric, this has been a ton of fun. I've really enjoyed revisiting our albeit very hazy memories of Shavano and Tabeguache and sharing some stories here. If anyone wants to get in touch with us, how can they reach us?
I agree. This has been a lot of fun, even if my memory banks have betrayed me a little bit over the years. We would love to hear about others' experiences on Shavano and Tabeguache. We'd love to hear how others pronounce those two
Mm.
mountains. And you can let us know all of your thoughts at the Greens and Blues Facebook page that we have, or you can email us, as a number of listeners have, at greensandbluespodcast@gmail.com. You can find our YouTube channel, which has a bunch of videos from random excursions that we've taken over the years. They can reach you, Zach, on, is it Blue Sky?
Well, I still have an X account at NM Hiker Person, and Blue Sky is just
Yep.
simply Zach Simpson.
There you
Um,
go.
so you can find me there, or you can, I don't know, send a carrier pigeon. Um, but with Eric, am so grateful that everybody listens to this, and we look forward to talking with you sometime soon.